right, so I believe there's a few participants coming in, so I'm going to start our webinar. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today's Spotlight on IT event. Before I introduce our panelists, just a bit of housekeeping. So we are waiting on another panelist who's coming in from India. So there can be some connectivity issue, but we're hoping that he'll be able to join us. The event will include 45 minutes of discussion and then 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. So please put your questions in the chat. Someone is monitoring that and they will gather the questions and pass them over to me at the end. If you're experiencing any tech problems, put it in the chat. We'll take a look at it. We'll do our best to address any issues that you might have. And if you'd like to access captioning, there are 3 bullets at the bottom on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. If you click on that, it will open up the captions for you. So it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists. I'm going to start with Stephanie Brito. Stephanie works at SoftChoice as Team Lead Territory Account Executive. She is a grad from our Business Marketing Diploma program. At GBC, she was a student ambassador and is a recipient of the Michael Cook Award. Also, she is VP of a Toastmasters International chapter, helping people to build confidence in their public speaking abilities. She has been a mentor to many, and she currently participates in the Girls in Tech Mentorship Program. Thanks for joining us, Stephanie.
Thanks, Trisha. Pleasure to be here.
Now, we also have Syed Ahmad. Syed works as a senior advisor in the Economic Research and Analytics branch within the Ontario government. He is a grad from our Information System Business Analyst program. He is a published academic and has been vice chair for the Business Analysis Community Toronto chapter. He has also been a volunteer for many years with the Project Management Institute, guest speaking at various institutions. Welcome, Syed.
Thanks, pleasure to be here.
Kristen Thuringer works at Women's College Hospital as an application coordinator. She is a graduate from our health informatics program, but in her initial career pathway, she studied neuroscience and psychology at university in the hopes of becoming a doctor. That all changed when she found the perfect combo of IT and healthcare in the health informatics program. She never stops learning and has about 10 certificates or licenses on her LinkedIn profile. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. Really nice to meet you all.
Sienna Micheva joins us from Quebec, and she works at Ernst & Young as a senior associate recruiter. She is a graduate from our Business Admin Human Resources Advanced Diploma program. She is a Dean's Medal recipient and was chosen as the valedictorian for the Center for Business in her graduating year. She has a very long history of volunteering during her time at GBC, but also within the community. And she too is someone who is continuously learning new things and has 15 certificates or licenses, mostly in information technology, on her LinkedIn profile. Welcome, Sienna.
Thank you so much, Trisha.
Now, I'm hoping that just Karen Pawar will be able to join us. He's another panelist. He's trying to join from a far distance away. He's hopefully he can get through, but just Karen works. Here he is. Hey. Jaskaran works at Stikeman Elliott Corporate Law Firm, which was named the top Canadian corporate law firm in the year 2021. He is a graduate from our Computer Systems Networking and Telecommunications Advanced Diploma. While at GBC, he was an international student ambassador. He was also president, then senior executive of the Helping Each Other Club under the Student Association. Welcome, Jaskaran, and sorry you had some trouble getting in.
Yep, thanks for having me, Trisha. It's all good now.
Excellent. So let's get going. I'm so excited to hear all the stories and what we can share with the graduates that have joined us today. And I'm going to start with Sienna. Sienna, can you comment on how the IT industry managed through the havoc of COVID-19 that it caused across Canada?
Yes, I would say that the pandemic really highlighted how important IT is for nearly every business to stay operational and sped up the adoption of technology by several years. In fact, many companies decided to modify their business model around technology to offer products and services that are partially or fully digitized. with the move of consumers and workers online, we're experiencing an increasing amount of remote interactions. And as we try to maintain that personalized human factor to these interactions, we use machine learning and artificial intelligence to analyze and predict behavior to create a more seamless user experience. Technology suppliers have realized that small and medium-sized businesses are a significant revenue source and have also developed more flexible technology offerings, which in turn has allowed small businesses to compete with market share giants. And technology innovation is no longer just a side project. It has become an integral part in staying competitive. So this renewed focus has certainly helped the IT industry to thrive throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, and you see that it's one of the industries that actually has really prospered and really grown during the pandemic because of the switchover, the way people work, the tools they need, the resources they need, and IT has really been one of the industries that has blossomed through all of this.
Exactly.
Now, Stephanie, you graduated from business marketing in 2020, and it was right in the midst of the pandemic, which must have been a bit worrying, a little unnerving, but you made it into the IT industry. Tell us about your career path.
Well, I moved to Canada 3 years ago. I'm from Brazil, and I came to study business marketing. And in the middle of my course, I decided that I wanted to go for a more tech path, and I started to do digital marketing course outside of college. And my last elective, actually, it was my last day on campus. It was on one of my classes called Principles of E-Business. And this professor, he was always talking about how tech needs more women and how we have a lot of investments and campaigns to bring more women to the tech side of the business. This is sticking to my mind, and I have 11 years of sales experience, not in tech though. And when I came here, I thought that I wanted to do marketing, but sales it's in my heart. This is what I do best. And I saw an opportunity to join sales, tech sales, even though I didn't know anything about tech, but I know a lot about business, and I bring my marketing background that I learned in college to assist me on my sales job. I graduated during the first wave of COVID and lockdown, applied for many marketing positions, but the universe told me that that was not my path. And then I found a way to join the tech industry through a bootcamp called Women in Tech Sales Bootcamp, which I'm going to talk more in my second question.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it just goes to show the reason we're having this event, and we have had the series or the spotlights on different industry, is that, you know, as new graduates, you need to consider the industries that are out there and the ones that are really healthy that you might want to enter into. And so finding that joy of industry, it makes your job search, I think, a lot easier. So that's
Yes,
great.
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Just Karen, I wanted to ask you, how did you choose to get involved in the IT industry, and what does your career journey look like?
Yeah, so I would say like since high school, it was the time when I got really interested in like computers, just because in high school you generally do have like a computer, at least you have some kind of interaction with computer. You have like maybe a computer class that you go to, maybe do some coding. So that's what kind of like was like a kickstart for me to just to explore this new field. And I started doing some coding. I started from there, and I got really interested in like IT. And then I came to Canada when I was 18, right after high school. Got into George Brown and computer system technology, advanced diploma. And from there, it just kept growing, the passion towards IT. And my first breakthrough, I would say, like to get into the field was during my college, I think almost in my sixth semester, say fourth semester, yeah. So I got like I got a part-time job at a small MIT consulting like a firm, and it was a really basic job, but I loved it, and it was just something that I like worked on and progressed in that, and then And by the time I graduated, I already had like a year experience in my own field, which really helped me to get a full-time job that I'm currently in. So I think just that journey from going through like for like a high school student who's like passionate about IT to becoming like a professional and like know certain things and then develop that and get into like the main IT industry was like an amazing journey for me.
Fantastic. It sounds like it was an amazing journey. And nice to know what you wanted to get into and just moving forward with it. Wonderful. I know, Kristen, you've always had a passion for the healthcare sector, and at one time you did plan to pursue a degree in medicine. Tell us a bit about your journey to George Brown College and your eventual pathway to Women's College Hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did always have a dream of working in healthcare. You are exactly correct. When I was a kid, I spent some time living at Sick Kids Hospital receiving treatment for leukemia. And I think through that experience, I kind of developed this desire to pay it forward in a sense. I want to work in healthcare with the hopes of helping others in the way that the healthcare system helped and served me. So my journey really began by first completing a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience and Psychology at Wilfrid Laurier University. That was back in 2019. And then I applied to my master's. Unfortunately, after 2 rounds of rejections from my master's, I did have to consider other routes to sciences and healthcare. As Steph said, I think it was, the universe just telling me that there's a different path, willing me in a different direction. And, similar to some of these other stories, this all happened in March of 2020. So right around the time the pandemic hit. And I remember sitting there in lockdown, having just learned that I didn't get into school for a second time, thinking, how am I going to set myself up such that I'm in a different place in a year's time? And what are my options for progressing my education and my career at this point? So yeah, a thorough search online is what led me to George Brown College. I stumbled upon the health informatics program, and after reading the description, it allowed me to combine my background in sciences with work experience in IT, and I could tailor this knowledge and experience in a healthcare setting. So that was really, really cool. And on top of that, George Brown offered co-ops, which is, I think, incredibly valuable for any young professional trying to seek industry experience. So yeah, I applied, was fortunately accepted, and was very, very fortunate to obtain my co-op role at Women's College Hospital, and have been here ever since. So yeah,
it sounds like you've landed in the right place.
Honestly, yes. And I can't even express enough how valuable the George Brown experience has been in helping me obtain the dream of working in healthcare. And I definitely give a lot of credit to the co-op experience that George Brown offers that with, if I'm not incorrect, I think all of their programs, if not most of their programs. So
most of them, and we are pushing to have every single program with a co-op as an option as well, because it does make a huge difference. It's a chance for grads or students to get hands-on experience, and it so helps when they finally graduate and they have something for the resume. So absolutely.
For sure. Agreed.
Syed, you've been everything from a software engineer to an assistant professor in your home country of Bangladesh, and now senior advisor, project manager with the Ontario government. Can you tell us about your journey to your current position after leaving George Brown College? And also, can you share with us, it's a 2-part question, can you also share with us your decision to get a project management designation? Is this a good designation for future opportunities in the IT industry?
Thank you, Trisha. To be fair, I had a bit of project management experience, and I had supervised a lot of academic projects and researches prior to joining George Brown. Well, I had the opportunity to wear multiple hats, so that gave me that additional benefits. So I intended to be in this role from the very beginning. So, and my perspective was to conveniently learn the North American way, and at the same time, it seemed to me convenient that if I started as a business system analyst, which is another role other than the PM, to have a full project view. So I thought that this is the right path to start. After I landed here, actually, I landed in 2018 as a immigrant. So since that at that moment seemed like a best choice, and it worked out. So alongside, I strongly maintain networking and volunteering with the Toronto chapter of the PMI, or Project Management Institute. Eventually that and a lot of brushing up and guidance on my LinkedIn and resume by the GBC Career Counseling Department helped me to reach where I am now. As for the prospect, project management is essential for all industries, not only for IT. So, and especially now when everything is changing and most of the projects need to be remotely managed.
Yeah, I think, you know, you're right with project management. I've been tempted to take project management myself. I think there's not an occupation out there that wouldn't necessarily need those skills, able to build out projects and manage them. I think it's really important.
Definitely. And to just add on to it, like I I started off as a business system analyst. I was assisting the IT team of the OPS, and now I'm not only managing IT projects, I'm also looking into the policies, business like stakeholder policies as well in the side because I have that knowledge. So the project management gives you that versatility.
Oh,
And
that's
the
great.
dynamic.
So it's a really important skill to build on.
Yeah.
Sienna, what are some of the new technologies that are emerging in the IT industry? Can you comment on where you see growth and opportunities and where there is less growth or demand? Oh, I think we lost Sienna for a sec. Hopefully she'll come back in a second. Speaking of technology, you're always running into glitches here and there when you're trying out technology. So hopefully we'll have Sienna coming in a sec.
I'm back. I apologize.
That's okay. I'll just repeat the question. I was wondering if you could talk about the new technologies that are emerging in the IT industry. Can you comment on where you see growth and opportunities and where there is less growth or demand?
Certainly. There are really many different technologies to speak of, from the Internet of Things to enhanced security. What I have seen is a consistent growth in big data analytics. So using machine learning and artificial intelligence to predict behavior and personalize interactions to maximize revenue or forecast performance for any industry or any instance. And the vast data that is collected on a daily basis is a valuable asset for companies that need specialists to monetize that data. So I see many professionals acquiring machine learning training to be able to keep up with that demand. In terms of technologies that there is less demand, those tend to be technologies that are inflexible, robust. They cannot scale up or down. Systems that can meet some challenges when trying to fulfill the needs of the customers. Most technologies become obsolete every 2 years, so anyone who is really married to a programming language or a software or hardware, even a way of doing things, will probably find themselves out of a job within a few years because IT is really the industry of consistent learning and consistent change.
And I agree. I see that, I see that when I was looking at all the panelists' LinkedIn, and everybody has got all these additional learnings on their certificates. So you're right. You've got to be ready to pivot really quickly on what the new thing is. And so be prepared if you go into the industry to be someone who's a lifelong learner. Sure.
Exactly.
Now, Stephanie, you are a great advocate for women entering the IT industry. Can you tell us about your involvement with WITS and as a mentor with the Prosperity Project? And then finally, I'd love for you to share your message to women who are joining us today who are thinking about entering the tech industry.
Absolutely, Trisha. So if I'm here today in this industry, it's thanks to a great woman who created the Women in Tech Sales Bootcamp. And what's this bootcamp? It's a 5-day long intense training for sales professional, regardless of what kind of sales do you still have chance to apply. So you submit your resume, you participate on an interview, and if you get selected, you have this industry vetted course where you can have access to many people. And at the end, you have 12 speed interviews with those employers who are currently hiring. And one of those employers is my current employer. Since I've been part of this bootcamp, many doors opened. And when I got the job at Softchoice, I had other 5 job offers. A month before, I had 0 job offers, hundreds of resumes sent for marketing. So that's why I'm a proud alumna and I'm an advocate for women in tech, because less than 20% of tech sales have women behind. And women are great sales professionals. If you go to a mall, you will see a lot of women as salesperson. Those multi-level marketing companies, majority is women. So why not they are in tech? Because there is a misconception that tech is all about coding on a dark room. I had that in my mind. But no, tech is everywhere in every single industry. So when we see HR companies, there is a big tech behind that. We see marketing companies, analytics, all tech. So why not sales? They need to make revenue. And we have amazing salespeople who can sell tech. I don't understand tech. I understand business and business outcomes. And I have a full team of tech professionals to assist me when I have a meeting with a customer. So it's always thinking about what's the impact tech will have on your business and why you should be thinking about tech. It's not like a single department. Tech is everywhere. And this is how I connect the dots with my volunteer experience as a mentor for the Prosperity Project. It's called Rosie Mentoring, and it's focused on STEAM, women in science. And my mentee right now, she's on an engineer company. And when we met, she was unemployed because she lost her job due to COVID. And now she's happily employed with less than 5 months of mentorship. So this is the way that I found to give back to the community. So I'm also a mentee and a mentor.
That's
And my goal
fantastic.
this year is to convince at least 5 new women to join tech. I
Okay,
already did 2.
so you know what, with all the listeners, all the attendees out there, if you need a mentor or you want to learn more about getting into the industry, I think Stephanie is the one to connect with for sure. I interesting that you talk about, you know, how people see IT, right? And I know that, Kristen, when we spoke a while back, you mentioned that often people think about IT in a kind of one-dimensional way. Can you share with us what you mean about not pigeonholing yourself in IT?
Yeah, for sure. I'll piggyback a lot on what Steph said, because everything that she just reflected on are a lot of the lessons that I've learned over the past year. But essentially, when I first explored, IT and information management programs at George Brown, I remember thinking, without an undergraduate degree in computer science and without knowing how to code, do I really qualify for a program in IT? And am I actually likely to succeed? So yeah, very one-dimensional thinking. But after pursuing the health informatics program, regardless of those thoughts, regardless of those fears, and after working in IT for about half a year now, I've learned 2 things. The first would be dispensing that one-dimensional thinking and any stereotypes surrounding IT. You do not have to be that super techie, super niche individual with the computer science degree to work in IT. If anything, what qualifies you are your soft skills, and I can't harp on that enough. Your ability to think analytically, problem solve, whether it's individually or in a team setting, and communicate well with others. Those are all what would allow you to work in IT. Everything else, I think, can be taught. And the second thing I'd say I've learned is that in our day and age, piggybacking on what Steph said, IT isn't merely an industry of its own. Digital transformation is impacting every industry, every company, everywhere. And if it hasn't touched, a company already, I imagine it absolutely will have to in the next 5 to 10 years' time. So regardless of your passions, I think you can incorporate those into a career in IT. So if you are one of those people, if you are thinking about a career in IT, don't pigeonhole yourself by thinking, you can only work in one industry, you can only have one specific role. and there are only certain types of companies that you can work for, because that is not the case. IT roles are everywhere. And you on this call, you have tons of mentors already who would be happy to help you navigate and find those roles. And yeah, adopting that knowledge has really changed the way that I view IT and opened a lot of doors that I previously saw as closed. So yeah,
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Kristen, sorry, I was going to say that, what's really striking me is how enthusiastic our panelists are about the industry and how willing to help. So maybe at the end, I'm just going to say to the attendees, if I have your permission, panelists, I will send out a contact email if they wanted to touch base, do an informational interview, get a little bit more about guidance around getting into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to chat.
That would be great. Now, Jaskaran, you've come out of you came out of computer systems networking, telecommunications, so you knew exactly what you were going to do. You were getting into IT. Can you tell us a bit about the company, because it's interesting that you ended up in a law firm, and so you work at this company. Can you tell us about it and the responsibilities of your role and what you enjoy most about being in the IT industry?
So yeah, as Stephanie said, like IT is everywhere. Like no matter what company you go to, like there's like always like an IT back, which is like managing all the IT stuff. So like right now I'm working as tech manager, and that was the full-time job that I got when I graduated from George Brown College, and I started as a service desk analyst. And so like the law. So let me first talk about the law firm. So it's so in Canada we have a concept which is called Seven Sisters. Seven Sisters are basically top 7 law firms of Canada, and my law firm is part of that Seven Sisters. So it's a big law firm. Like just in our own Toronto branch, we have over 500 lawyers that are working, and in Montreal we have like 300 lawyers. Then like some in Vancouver would be 200, and then Calgary is a smaller office, in Ottawa, and then we have international offices like New York, Sydney, and London. All like law firm lawyers working on different corporate deals. So yeah, it's a really big law firm, and you can imagine like how many supporting staff it will have, like legal assistants, law clerks, and like other staff like HR and like marketing and everyone, right? So definitely they need like tech support, and I started as service desk analyst, which basically is just supporting them with like if they have any issues with the computer, internet stops working, need help with the softwares, or any small issues that are happening, right? And after 6 months, it was a contract position, and that's when I got promoted to a full-time permanent position, and everything just rolled from there. So then I became an audiovisual analyst, and then my primary roles was just to manage all the clients that are coming into the law firm, and all the main, I would say, the lawyers, the partners of the firm, and helping them with their meetings that they're having day-to-day basis, specifically like tech-related meeting, which involve like this panel, or it's like a video conference meeting with the judge. Like specifically in COVID, it's really common that they're having Zoom meetings with like hearings on Zoom with like judge and other parties involved. So those kind of things. So I'm taking care of all that. Like we have meetings almost every single day. A lot of meetings are happening, and I'm taking care of that part, and also taking care of all the audiovisual, which could be anything related to like their cell phones, like because lawyers have cell phones, and in case they lose it, I have the option to like wipe everything just for security purposes, and other small things that I do at the background for anything related to audiovisual, which could be phones, iPhones, or their desk phones, and anything related to their meetings. And there's other like small responsibilities that are involved. So, and now recently I got promoted again, and I would say 3-4 months ago. Yes, so and that was basically like, so again, like it was just how it worked out that I was already dealing with so many clients, and like mainly like the floor that I'm in is a client floor, and like the CEOs of different companies are coming in. So it's all the so now my role is basically audiovisual analyst and audiovisual and collaboration analyst. And the collaboration analyst basically involves like dealing with all the VIPs, which includes like all the CEOs of companies that are coming in, and also like VIPs in our own office, which are like big, like I would say like senior partners of the company, CEO of the company, CFOs, all the chief executives. So if they need any help with anything related to tech, I'm the one who will be helping them out, because it's just like I have been doing that for so many years, and it just was just a thing that I already developed, like how to basically like deal with like these high pressure situations when like a meeting is happening with the CEO and something like stops working, and then you have to go in, and it's just a high pressure that, oh, if it doesn't work, like it's a high risk, right? So those kind of things that I developed with like high pressure, how to deal with those situations, and that's basically like my role and the company that I work at, law firms. But yeah, there's definitely like a big RD department. I would say 50 plus. We have IT staff working, and there's like programming involved. There's like security department in IT, cloud department in IT, and all the other departments as well.
Well, I think tech support has just exploded. The demand for tech support. I mean, we know it at the college as well. I think it's almost one of those jobs you could demand whatever you want and you'd probably get paid it. There's just such a massive need. And again, I suppose with you, it's learning all these new technologies on a consistent basis so you can keep up with the demands of those in your company and what they need.
Exactly, like everything is changing so quick, and specifically in COVID, there was
Mm-hmm.
lots of learning that was needed to be done, and also like teaching others. Like specifically, that was one of the main roles, that like training other staffs who are not very tech savvy to like explain them what's going on and how they can now work from home. So it was
Right,
another
right.
learning curve, I would say, like training other people at the same time.
So just like piling on the skills that you'll need in any job. So that's great. Um, Syed, I know many grads are curious about ways to attain a job within the provincial government. What can you share with us about applying for jobs at the government?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, like the official statement is there's a employment freeze from external
Oh,
point of view
okay.
for the
Yeah.
Ontario government, but it was there even 5 years ago. So when I got in as a co-op, at that time I felt like I was very lucky to enter the OPS as a co-op from a college, because it was at that time it was very well known that OPS only provide co-op or internship opportunity to the university students.
Mm.
And so as you can see now that it's not impossible. I'm there. So, and I've seen many George Brown graduates there as well. So this is where strong networking comes to play. I met and networked with some of the volunteers at PMI Toronto chapter who worked for the provincial government, and
Mhm,
that led them into providing me with several co-op opportunities. And I gave interviews, and I was lucky to land one. So I would
mhm,
suggest on stepping up the networking game. Also, the Ontario government has a special competitive program for the co-ops and interns that I got to know after getting into the OPS. I never knew it
mhm,
before. So
mm,
it's called the Ontario Internship Program. It normally they select between January to March. So
mhm,
the dates depends. So you have the graduates has to do some research and keep a lookout for it. It's super easy to apply if the proper process is followed, and the resume, they have to just make sure that they have the correct format on the LinkedIn and resumes. And
mhm.
this is where GBC career department comes in help.
Absolutely. And I know that program, and they do reach out to the college. So
Yes.
they are often looking for, they come through the career services, and that's how I've been in touch with them. I think it's the beginning of January when they start to recruit for the spring. So it's important, if you're listening out there as an attendee, look into the co-op program that they offer. It is called what was it again?
Ontario
Ontario
internship program.
Internship Program. That was it.
It's for
Yeah.
the graduates actually. So maybe if it's like in your second last semester, you have to start working on it from your second last semester at least.
Okay. Okay. I see. Good to know. Thank you for that. Um, I wanted to ask, just Karen, so we were talking, the networking piece. What is your most important thing that you did to prepare for getting into your career? Did you bring networking into it? What's the most important thing you did?
Yeah, I would say it was a bunch of things that led to like the job I got. after graduating. But I would say definitely, like, I think everyone here also agrees that, like, in IT, what someone thinks, okay, I need like to focus on like tech skills and like really get like ace that, and that's what will get me a job. But actually, I think the soft skills are really important, no matter what kind of role you are in tech. So, so I would say, like, starting like when I came to George Brown College, and just in my second semester, I got like job at George Brown College at GB Careers. So I was managing the GB Careers job portal, and as like Saeed was saying that the internship program and with the Ontario government, like I heard about that as well, like because I was managing all the employers at the college, and also from there also, like it was like learning lots of other skills. I got hired for that, but then I started doing marketing for Career Center. I started going to different presentations in different classes about explaining people about GB Careers, because I was so involved in like managing the GB Careers, posting jobs on GB Careers, and promoting it on social media as well. So I think definitely like the Career Center team, while being in them with like Stephanie and like Carlos, they also were like great mentors for me, I would say, who really helped me with getting all the soft skills while I was learning like all the technical skills from my classes. And but yeah, so when I would say the first job I got, the part time one I was talking about before, it was through networking, and I hugely believe that yes, networking does matter if you know someone, and it does matter, and that's how I got my first job. It was just someone who I knew, and they said they needed help with some IT project, and I just showed up and started helping out. It was not like a regular hiring process where like you go through an interview. They just really literally called me, said that need to get this done. Please, let's see what you can do. And I just got into that, and that's how I got that job part time. And as I said, that's what led me to get the full time job. So I would say the soft skills, the networking definitely helps, and like communication skills are one of the main things that will help you if you're like going into the support role. And even in any role, I would say it's definitely needed, like with the teamwork. And I think I developed that from like my job at George Brown, and then like starting with like that club, helping each other, and that was basically a sidekick gig I did just to help students, because I already knew a lot about college and a lot about George Brown Career Center. I was seeing that not many students are taking advantage of that. So I wanted to promote that to students. So that was one of the main reasons I started the Helping Each Other Club. So I would say, yeah, like those soft skills slowly developing from like either managing like the club, or like soft skills from my George Brown College part-time job, and then IT skills that developed throughout that 1 year while I was in college and working part-time in IT really helped me to get where I am right now.
And that's a really good point. I think it's important. I know that, most of those that are tuned in today are grads, and they may not have that opportunity to find those connections through the college so much. But I mean, I think the point is, whatever you're doing, look around, watch and listen. Where is there a gap? Where can you add your skills? Where can you talk to someone about ways that you can pitch in? How can you start a club at a company you work at so that you can build some of those skills in? So it really is to find ways to get noticed, to build out your reputation, and really show yourself as a valued employee, the potential that you have, things like that. So that's great. And I think I want to ask Sienna to kind of weigh in on that. What are the positions that you recruit for, and what does the perfect candidate look like? What differentiates one candidate from another? And then maybe you could share with us what are those skills, those technical and admin skills that are really important, but also what are the soft skills, employability skills that you look for in a candidate?
Certainly. At EY, I mostly work on finance-related roles, but when I was working with iHeartMedia, some of the roles that I was supported included software engineer, platform developer, machine learning engineer, site reliability engineer, really the core IT team. And my favorite candidates have always been the ones who purposely applied to the role. So they were familiar with the company, they were interested by the type of projects that they would be working on, they were actively listening to my questions, and they could articulate how they have used this technology that they have listed on their resume. And I do want you to take a moment and talk about the resume, because it is a very important tool for IT professionals. Tech resumes tend to be just a compilation of buzzwords a lot of the times, where every resume looks a little bit the same. So the most successful resumes that I have seen have listed the company, role, responsibilities, special projects that they have taken on, and all of the technology used at that particular entry. Definitely use your recruiter. Your recruiter is your friend. They want to hire you and close that very difficult role that they're working on. So help them sell your skills. Be organized and strategic when answering your questions. Prepare your answers ahead of time. A lot of those questions will be very similar. You can find a lot of those typical questions that you'd be asked online. Use the STAR method. Make sure your answers are complete but short, usually 3 to 4 minutes maximum. And if you need more help, like many other people mentioned, use the career services at GBC. They really helped me when I was starting out my career, and they have a lot of resources. When meeting the hiring managers, research them, show interest in their work and their team, relate your work to what they're looking for. Because technology moves so quickly, most managers are really willing to train the more in-depth technical knowledge, and they're open to consider more junior candidates who show interest in learning and development, in collaboration and contributing to tight-knit teams, and show curiosity. It is important to really display agility and the ability to learn new skills to complete a challenging project, because, like I mentioned, technology is always changing. You can't really rely on your past skill set to move you forward. And just a heads up, prepare for a long interview process. I have seen roles that have up to 7 rounds of interviews, and we're not Google, so I guess there are more interviews out there. So be as available as possible, be diligent, and come prepared to each interview. I would also recommend maybe reducing the amount of companies that you're interviewing with at any given time to present your best foot forward and to avoid interview fatigue. And start with your dream companies and see how it goes.
Well, that's great information. Everything you said was really important to remember. Curiosity, you're right. Be prepared. Be super prepared. Practice your interviewing out loud with someone. Record yourself with your answers. All of that's really important. And the point that you made, Sienna, around the services that we have at the college. So as a graduate, you can access those career services still for life. So if you're struggling and you think you need some support, please reach out to the career services at the college. Just Google it on our website, and then you'll see the contact information and how to get through to them to book for resumes, consultation, an interview practice, anything like that. Kristen, I wanted to touch base with you around because I know we had a really interesting discussion around, IT when we were first chatting. And I think many people think about the world of IT as being an environment where you're working away in your little corner, solving tech problems, and not really engaging much with anyone. Is that true in your job and in your work? What kind of soft skills are really important to succeed?
Yeah, for sure. So sticking with the theme of not pigeonholing yourself, I honestly think that your career in IT can be whatever you want it to be. I think the pathway is very flexible. For myself, I'm very extroverted. I do enjoy team settings. So my work experience has been highly engaging. We've done a lot of troubleshooting as a team where we bounce a lot of ideas off one another, and you learn a lot from each other as you work through projects at the hospital. It was recently mentioned that technology is ever evolving. So it's important to have those skills in place because you will need to work with other people at one point or another. But, if you're one of those people sitting on the call saying, I'm not that extroverted. I do like to be that person who, sits behind the laptop. I do like to be the IT guy who is only called when the call cuts out. That's totally okay as well. I have work experience working for Bell Canada and communications infrastructure, and a big part of my role was very individual. I did a lot of solo work. So all to say, I do think that the pathway is very flexible. I do think there are roles in IT for every personality type. But with that said, the word soft skills have been tossed around a lot on this phone call, and those can't be stressed enough. Regardless of who you are, regardless of the kind of work that you want to do, there are some really important soft skills that come into play in IT roles. I definitely think that analytical thinking and problem solving abilities are very important. It's a huge part of our job. So is active communication and interpersonal skills, the ability to work on a team. That all goes hand in hand. Some other soft skills are, time management and personal responsibility. Whether you're working on a team or you're working individually, you will need to be responsible and make sure that your work gets done, because if you're working solo, guaranteed there are still other people that are relying on you and the work that you do. So yeah, it's really an interconnected system. And finally, as Jazz Karen said earlier, adaptability is really, really important. You have to be able to roll with the punches when the CEO's internet is cutting out and you're the guy to fix it. You have to be able to act proactively and think analytically through situations. And so, yeah, I think the best thing you can do if you are entering into this industry is just work on those soft skills in any way that you think is possible. And again, I'll throw my name in the hat as I'm always here to chat with anyone if ever you do want to work on any of those soft skills. And I'm sure all of the panelists have feedback on other soft skills that will be important to work on along the way.
Well, that's great, and I will hopefully be gathering everyone's email so I can send it out to the participants, and the attendees can let me know at alumni@georgebrown.ca whether you'd like me to send off some of the connections, some of the emails of the panelists. And I wanted to just, Syed, I know that you got your job through co-op that came through for you at the college, but I wanted to know, once you're in the government, so you got the job in there, how important is networking once you're in a company?
Networking is always important. So just an open secret is that every position that's been created by a hiring manager, they created based on someone in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't have it, they don't, like as Kristen and Stephanie and Sienna said, it's a to read it, even Jessica said it, like they don't have that much time to look into a new candidate and train that person, right? They will always want someone they know or trust in the position they're hiring for. So for me, it's the same. Like I have moved position, I have climbed the career ladder, and it's all because of networking. I had to network with the hiring manager. I had to be in touch with them, even if I didn't get any. Even if I got rejected in an interview, I tried to keep in touch with the hiring manager as well, to just ask them, okay, mentor me. I know I was not qualified enough. Mentor me so that next time in any other position, I can be qualified for that. So that really helps. And when you keep in touch with these people, with these hiring managers, they train you, they let you know, and even then once you're trained, they have the trust. They either create a position for you, or they refer to other managers. I have a great candidate, hire this person, and that's what secures your position. So,
well, that's an interesting theme that keeps coming up, right? It's look for opportunity. Mentoring seems to be a big thing that helps in your career. Building on those networking skills and soft skills. And also, I noticed most of you have been volunteers. And Stephanie, you're someone who has a long history of volunteering, and now you're a VP of Public Relations with Toastmasters. And I'm not sure if everybody knows what Toastmasters is, so maybe you could explain what that is and how it helps you to be better in the workplace.
Absolutely, Trisha. If I'm able to come here today and speak clearly for a crowd, it's because of Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is an international community similar to whenever you go to any place in the world, you will see the Pottery Club or the Masons Club. It's an international community. They are international communities. Same with Toastmasters. And we are focused on public skills and building skills for leadership. And the main objective of Toastmasters itself. It's for you to educate yourself through their career or through their education paths. You sign up to be a member, and it's a 6-month membership, and you will have a lot of paths, and you choose your own. Right now, I'm on the presentation mastery path because I do a lot of presentations on my work and outside of work. And the way that I found out to sharpen my public speaking skills is through Toastmasters. Also is an excellent opportunity to meet other people. In my district, I was in contact with a VP at RBC last week. This is amazing. And we have all of those experienced professionals who can also refer you. Another part of this is that I am more aware of my filler words. Filler words are ums, ams, you know. And when I'm talking with a customer, if I do a lot of filler words, it looks like I'm not confident enough. So I learned this with Toastmasters. That's why I give pauses, because pauses are better than filler words. The entire Toastmasters organization, I can go to any chapter in the world and give a speech. And it's worldwide recognized as a great organization where you learn public speaking and where you learn leadership. I'm hard set on leadership right now. And I got 4 promotions. I'm 1 year and 5 months at SoftChoice. And I got 4 promotions in this time frame. And my promotion to team lead, one of the main reasons my manager told me that he was giving me this promotion, it's because of my involvement with Toastmasters. When you sign up to be on the board, as I'm VP of Public Relations, and I spread the word about Toastmasters like I'm doing here right now, it gives you leadership experience. You can get experience by volunteering. I volunteered in college on the International Ambassador Program. I volunteered to the Rosie Mentoring Program, and right now I volunteer to Toastmasters. In fact, this time, right now, it's our weekly meeting. And I told them that right now I'm giving a real speech and putting everything that I learned in the past 6 months in practice. I strongly recommend you to learn a little bit about Toastmasters. I'm going to put on the chat. And if you have any questions about it, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll be glad to spread the word about how Toastmasters can help and has been helping me in my career.
That is fantastic. And I know Toastmasters well. I started a chapter at the college. It ran for about 2 years. Maybe we need to start it up again. Thank you so much. We're at, you know what, I'm looking at the time. We've got 4 minutes to 1, so we don't have a lot of time for questions. I'm going to see what has come in. Give me 1 sec. Okay. 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 So how do you keep your IT skills current? That's one of the questions, and anyone can take that. And so I know a lot of you do that. You do keep current in with your IT skills. Do you have a preferred way of doing that?
Say certification is one of the main ways that I did it. And even like right now, I think everyone, even like sometimes like your job requires you to keep updated with certifications. So I think that was definitely, I would say, one of the main things that you can do to keep your skills current.
And they sometimes don't take too long either. They're quite quick. Syed, I see your hand up, and then I see Kristen, your hand as well. So I'll be moving over to you afterwards. Syed?
Well, I would rather say like what the way I do it, and I see many of my colleagues do it as well. Like take, LinkedIn, like if you have the premium membership, when we were in GBC, we had that opportunities. So use that leverage on that, do the courses that's there. Also, I take micro courses from YouTube or even Udemy or other online course platforms, the Skillshare and everything. Just go there and do these courses. If you don't have time or cannot afford these certifications. It's like certifications are really helpful, but it's not possible for everyone to afford it at that moment of time. So if you can learn it and build up on, like for the IT guys, like you can build up on, you can take those courses and build up small projects and showcase them on your LinkedIn profile or any other platform that you have. So that's a simpler way for the IT people.
Thank you, Syed. Those are really good tips. Kristen, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree with Syed. I think LinkedIn Learning, there are, so many courses that you can do in any which industry. So very good to have a look at that. Digital Health Canada also has some really great courses that they advertise. So you can reach out to any of their reps at any point to discuss those courses. And, if you're in a role already and you have done certifications that have qualified you for your role, another thing to keep in mind is it's really good to continue your learning. As we've all said, technology is ever evolving. And so it would be good to keep your manager aware of the fact that you do want to keep learning. So if in your role after 6 months, you're comfortable in what you're doing, you've learned as much as you think you can in a certain topic, then you can always ask for more. Put your hand up, be the first person to say, can I be trained in this? Do we need a backup in this? What options do I have to further my education while you're in this role? And if you don't ask for it, you won't get it, right? So really important to be vocal and just go for any and all opportunities that you think you can obtain.
Fantastic. I think another question came in, but I think I'm going to have to, we're at time. What I can do is when I reach out to the attendees, I can add answers just to a couple of the other questions that have come in. But first of all, I want to thank everyone, like Sienna, Syed, Stephanie, Kristen, Just Karen. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your stories, sharing your insights, and shining a spotlight on the IT industry. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Trisha, for
And you
having
can
us.
always connect with me on LinkedIn. I've been a bit upset because it's month end, but I'm always happy to answer anyone.
Well, that might be a good way to do it. I think that if everyone is interested, anyone's interested in connecting with any of the panelists, go through LinkedIn, send your message. Maybe they can spend some time guiding you a little further. And if anyone would like to reach out with more questions or comments, please do so at alumni@georgebrown.ca. Take care, everyone.